Okay, so in this next video, I'm going to go over the two pods that were above my sleeping equipment that had my clothing and also the gear I wore in general for the match for Mammoth Sniper Challenge. So I wore these Kuyu pants that I think they're called the Attack Pro. And the reason I wore them, they're great material, they're stretchy material, lightweight, kind of like a soft shell. But the built-in knee pads, that's huge. For actually all the shooting competitions I do, for even USPSA, any standard long-range match, having built-in knee pads is so convenient because oftentimes in these shooting events you find yourself going down to a knee in some fashion or another and not having to worry about putting anything on. I find these really useful. So these pretty much, I have a handful of pairs. I'm my go-to pants for all shooting events I go to. For a t-shirt, I wore a performance kind of blend t-shirt that Rogue makes. They made this one for me. They got their logo, put my logo and Federal on it. So I actually wore the same t-shirt for all 3 days. I didn't take an extra t-shirt, and I would have done the same thing again. There's no reason to have another change of shirt. If you sweat a lot, which you do during the rucks, you can take it off and just wear a jacket to let this air out. We did that at night. For shoes, I wore these Salomon's S-Lab trail shoe. Not sure which model's inside. So basically they have a built-in gaiter, kind of gaiter-like thing. That the reason I wore these, well, they keep your feet dry for one. Two is this built-in gaiter would keep debris out of my socks while rucking through gravel or whatever kind of terrain where you might get dirt, loose trail. This probably was one of the few things I made a poor choice on. I didn't need this gaiter. If I really did need or want, I didn't need this built-in gaiter. If I wanted gaiters, I should have just worn a pair that goes over the shoe instead of wearing these. And here's why. So day one, that we did all the rucks, no issue with my feet. Day two, the first ruck was our longest ruck up to that point, and it was about 4.5 miles, maybe just under 4.5 miles. And we went really hard. We finished in the front. And at the end of the ruck, I instantly stopped and went, oh man, my big toes are on fire. And so basically on both big toes at that point, on the outside, I started blistering. I think, because I've rucked a lot and ran a lot in Solomon's and not had any issues, I think this sleeve, what's going on here, didn't allow there to be any flexibility or flex in the system, which caused me to start blistering. So then I had to go the next day and a half with worrying about the blisters. We brought with us a blister kit, which I highly recommend. And so I just built little donuts around the blisters and made it work, and it was fine for the rest of the event. So, and the place where I blistered on the outside of the toe, it's not on the bottom of the feet, so it wasn't too big of a deal. So these shoes felt fine until I started blistering, and even then made it work. I'm still a fan of Salomon. I'll wear other pairs, but not this style anymore. Then for the event in my pack, I had to bring a change of socks and a change of underwear. And actually, honestly, I wore compression. I brought a second pair of compression shorts that I never used, and I don't think I would have. Next time, if I do this again, I wouldn't bring a second pair of compression shorts. I just run the one. In this pod, I also had a beanie, which I wore a handful of times. It came in handy. And I had 3 pairs of socks. One that I wore on for day one, and then 2 other, a pair of socks for day 2 and a pair of socks for day 3. And I think that was plenty. These are darn tough, I think they're called. I got these at REI, and they felt fine. They worked well. Actually, these are REI socks. Oh, they're both REI. So these are REI branded socks. Also in that pack, I had a headlamp. You don't need a headlamp till you get back to camp. So the headlamp being in here was fine. And same sort of thing. Look for this really small, lightweight black diamond headlamp. There was a point in one of the rucks on day 2 in the morning I did wear this. I think it was day 2 in the morning. I did wear this during a ruck. A lot of people wear their headlamps during the first ruck because you started them when there was no daylight yet. So that's what I had in this pod, and this pod was the third pod in. The fourth pod was this. In another video, I talked about this wax canvas pod that I made that's the same size as these pods, but I could also use as a shooting bag. I didn't use it at all at this match for a shooting bag, so if I did this again next time, I wouldn't use this. I would use just a lighter weight pod that they make. In this pod, though, this one was really important. These are probably 3 of the most important pieces of all the gear I took for the match, other than the shooting stuff, was my anorak. And the anorak is by Western, hold on, 1 second, Montbell, and it's $270, and it was 6.2 ounces. And it's down, super lightweight. Again, I looked for a lightweight down jacket. And again, I picked down because it's lighter than some of the synthetic fills, but down, if it gets wet, also it loses its warmth capabilities. And it wasn't going to be too wet there, so I wasn't worried about that. But this I used a lot. I wore it on a couple of stages. Wore it underneath the barbed wire stage. That was a mistake. So did my partner, and we both tore a little. But really happy with this piece of equipment. Wore it a lot. Then I had this Arc'teryx. I'm actually not sure which model this is, but this is one of their super lightweight shells. When I went to the match, I also took a medium weight shell because I didn't know how much it was going to rain, and I was prepared to have something a little beefier in there than this. So those were the two big layers that I had, one for rain and one for cold. And then the other critical piece, probably the most useful piece, was the soft shell. And so the soft shell rounds out the 3 pieces of jackets, or the 3 warm pieces I had. The first night when it was really cold, I think I wore all 3 when I was in my sleeping bag with that down bag and in the tent. This Arc'teryx is the Arc'teryx Gamma MX, and it weighs 1 pound, 3.6 ounces. And really like this jacket. It's got a good feel, it's durable, and used it on a lot of stages. And most rucks I started cold, but one morning I was really cold, and so I actually started with this on. But by midway through, I had to open it up. One other thing that I did carry in the first pouch I showed you, the pouch with the underwear and stuff, is a set of gloves. And so for the gloves, I had a lightweight set of flight gloves that 511 makes, kind of like a flight glove-like glove. It's not exactly your traditional flight glove, but it's modeled after that. And I didn't feel that I needed anything else. The first morning I rucked without these on, and my hands got cold, especially handling the tripod, because I told you we carried that. And then the second morning I wore these for the ruck because it was cold, and to have something to grip the tripod and not freeze my hands off. So that's the clothing that we wore for Mammoth. Big thing there is just looking at some of the lightest gear possible, because you don't want to add more pounds to your pack, and not carrying stuff you don't need. The soft shell, the rain shell, and then the down insulated anorak. That was a great combo for what I needed for the match. All right, thanks.